Would you work 2,700 hours, a year and a half full-time, just to buy a single virtual knife? Some might say it's insane, but for others, it's the reality. In this video, I'm going to show you how the numbers stack up, why knives got so expensive, and what it really takes to buy a knife in some of Counter-Strike's biggest countries. This is 9-year-old Mathieu. He lives in France and dreams of meeting his favourite players in person. One day, walking among the greats, maybe even becoming one of them. He's got the passion, the skills, and a supportive grandma, but there's just one problem. He doesn't have a knife. And as we all know, skins equals wins. The plan is simple. As soon as he turns 15, he's going to get a job at the local supermarket. The question is, how many hours would he need to work to buy a knife?
I don't know.
And what if he lived in the United States, Brazil, Poland, or here in Australia? Before we look at what a CS2 knife really costs around the world, let's see why knives have become so expensive in the first place. In July 2015, I became the proud owner of an M9 bayonet Doppler Phase 4. At the time, it was my absolute dream knife, if the name tag didn't already give that away. It cost about $300. As a teenager, that was a lot of money. A decade later, that same knife sells for over $2,000. The price has increased nearly sevenfold. So what changed? First, the most obvious answer is the player base. Back in July 2015, there was an average of just 300,000 players. Today, that number is more like 1 million. And a couple of months ago, we even peaked at 1.8 million concurrent players. Each month, we're seeing around 30 million different users, so there's simply more demand. Moreover, it's become increasingly acceptable to spend money on digital items, and can even be a flex. Think about how common in-game purchases are compared to a decade ago, and even the impact of NFTs or the normalization of Bitcoin that was seen as digital nonsense. The impact of streamers is also non-negligible, as iconic players and creators can have huge influence over which skins and knives are popular. In addition, the fact that many more people see Counter-Strike items as a type of investment means that more people are holding items, and some even hoarding them. In the extreme cases, there's outright market manipulation where individuals or groups of people try to buy up as much stock of a single item as possible to increase the prices short term in a pump and dump. One thing I find fascinating is just how many knives actually exist today. After all these years, how rare is a knife really? To calculate this, I'm using numbers from CS Stonks. If you want to look into their methodology further, there will be a link in the description. Since 2013, when the first weapon case was released, there have been an estimated 2.2 billion cases opened. With the odds of opening a knife at 1 in 391, that means there should be roughly 5.6 million knives in existence. However, out of the 43 cases that exist, 7 of them contain gloves. So let's drop that to 4.8 million knives. But wait, not all knives are made equal. There's a total of 24 knife finishes plus the vanilla skin, yet only a handful of them would be highly desirable. Based on descending prices, I'm taking the S tier finishes as Doppler, Gamma Doppler, Fade, Marble Fade, Tiger Tooth, Law, Autotronic, Slaughter, and Crimson Web. So with 9 out of 25 finishes being highly desirable, that drops our total knife count to 1.7 million. We also have to consider bans and dead inventories. And I'm not just talking about the occasional VAC banned account, but about the millions of skins blocked through mass ban waves on sites like OP Skins, CSGO Lounge, and other gambling websites over the years. This is harder to calculate, but many of these sites had thousands of trading bots. There's also a percentage of casual players who may open a knife and never even realize it holds value, or users who opened a knife years ago and have since stopped playing. Every time a knife gets trade locked on a banned account or sits in a dead inventory, that supply permanently removed. There's a ton of factors at play here, so it's pretty tricky to pinpoint a number, but I'm going to go with 1 million desirable knives in active circulation. You can critique my assumptions in the comments and let me know if I've missed anything, but for the moment, that means there's only one desirable knife for every 30 monthly players. And perhaps what sums it up better than any of these factors is something I read on Reddit. User BedQuest commented, "We started playing this game as kids, now we're adults with salaries." Many of us found our love for Counter-Strike in our teens, but now that we've got disposable income, we're happy to throw a bit of it at some pretty pixels. And it's obvious this has become the norm. Playing in 25k plus ELO and level 10 Faceit matches, just about everyone has skins, and usually fairly expensive ones. So now that we've looked at why knives have become so expensive, let's break down what it actually costs to buy one, relative to wages in different countries. By the way, if you're finding this breakdown interesting, make sure you hit subscribe. I post CS2 content like this every week, and you don't want to miss out on next week's video. Thanks so much for your support. Putting these numbers together wasn't as simple as I expected. Not every country uses the same pay structure, some base minimum wage on monthly salaries instead of hourly rates. Work weeks vary too. In countries like Sweden and Denmark, there isn't even an official minimum wage, it's negotiated by unions. And in places like France, parts of your income are automatically deducted through systems like cotisation before income tax. So while these numbers aren't perfect, they paint a pretty clear picture. This is a factory new Karambit Doppler Phase 2. Right now it costs $4,700 on CS Float. If you were working a minimum wage job, the fastest you'd be able to get this knife is in 225 hours or 5.5 weeks of work in Sweden, where the minimum wage is 129 Swedish krona or $20.85. The next best country would be Denmark at $17.09 per hour or roughly 7 weeks of full-time work. Next up, my fellow Australians would need to work 8 weeks at $16 an hour. The UK sits right alongside us with an almost identical pay rate. And little Mathieu in France, at $11 an hour, he's looking at 12 weeks of work. Had Pasha not become a sensation, it would have taken him 14 weeks at the local milk bar.
Good morning, my friends.
With a pay rate of $8.30. For the United States, if you're not getting tips to boost that base hourly rate, you're looking at 4 months of work at a $7.25 hourly salary. And then it gets really brutal. The next few countries absolutely blew my mind. In Russia, it would take 2,700 hours of work, or 1.3 years, at a $1.74 hourly rate. But it gets even worse. The Brazilians get just $1.58 per hour, and it would take 3,000 hours of work to show off that Karambit Doppler. And finally, our favorite new Asian team, the Mongolians, with an hourly pay rate of just $1.09, would have to grind out 4,300 hours or 2 years and 1 month of full-time work just to buy the knife. So depending on where you live, this Karambit could cost you a month and a half of work or literally 2 years of your life. Better choose where you spend your money wisely. Before you go, make sure you like the video so YouTube knows you want more CS2 content. And be sure to check out this video where I share 12 costly investing mistakes that you need to avoid. I'll see you there.